Hi, everybody. I want to talk to you today about stories and stories that matter because they do. And in the backdrop of that, I want to let you know that just recently this week, I got the opportunity to go to a teacher training. And this teacher training was at the San Diego County Office of Ed. And the training was called Supporting Immigrant and Refugee Students in the Classroom. And it was about calling an awareness to the adversity that these students were talking about are bringing into the classroom. And this adversity that shows itself as an obstacle to learning. And when we educators are privy to their stories, the traumas that they may have because of their experiences as child immigrants, undocumented or not, we can better support these kids and provide a safe zone so that learning can happen. And without that knowledge of their stories, without sympathy for what they've seen or been through, which can be awful, horrifying, and unimaginable, I know because so many of my own students have come through my doors carrying these stories. Without a starting point of a classroom that fosters acceptance and inclusive school communities where children are respected, valued, and welcome participants in the classroom, we can't even begin to expect that they'll learn what we're required to teach them. So again, these are my students. They come with stories that some of us outside of education or outside of impoverished, low socioeconomic areas don't have an awareness of. Maybe not even have a compassion or empathy for due to the lack of knowledge. I want to read an excerpt from my book that talks about this. I had a student whose family made a huge impact on me and helped me to sympathize on a much deeper level with the struggle that some immigrants go through, only because I allowed them to really come into my life and I into theirs. And again, I want to say, this is not a one-child thing. This is a very common story that I hear a lot. It's very common adversity and trauma. Well, this little boy's name was Roberto, and it was his first week of first grade when I met him. Roberto was a sweet, well-behaved boy who didn't speak a lick of English. Neither did his older sister, Mercedes, when she came to introduce herself to me. She was his guardian. She came to ask if the school could offer her any resources to help with Roberto, along with his younger 5-year-old brother Francisco and his 2 other siblings, Omar, who was 12, and Luna, a 16-year-old. Mercedes was only 17 herself, and she had full custody of all of her siblings, and she needed help. She was an intelligent and determined girl who knew where her responsibility lied with her family. They were undocumented, but she had a different story than many of the American public may assume about her being here illegally from Mexico. They were from Querétaro, Mexico, and they lived in poverty there with their mother, who had unexpectedly died. It was up to the eldest Mercedes to care for the rest of the children. There was no work in Mexico for her, and no other family members there to take care of her and her other 4 siblings. If she stayed, she had no idea how she would care for the family. Most likely, the younger boys would be put into an orphanage. She and her sister? Who knows? Probably the unthinkable. The boy's father had never been in the picture. She did know that the girl's estranged father lived in Southern California, so they fled. They took the little money that they had, and they traveled to Tijuana and attempted to cross the border with the goal of finding their estranged father who could hopefully help the 5 of them. The 2 little boys got caught at the border and were put into a holding area at the San Isidro boarding crossing. They were 5 and 6 years old, and they were separated from each other and their siblings. Francisco went to one place, Roberto to another, and neither had any idea what had happened to their siblings, nor did they know whether or not they'd come back for them. They were kept there for a week before Mercedes was able to get past the red tape and retrieve her brothers. They all made it across the border, and they eventually found their father and stayed with him briefly until his new wife told them to leave. Being estranged for so long, I don't think the father had developed any real connection with them, let alone a stepmother who had never expected 5 strange kids out of nowhere. Again, they were without help. That's when Mercedes sought out resources, found a job, and put the kids in school. I met them then. It amazed me what she had accomplished so far on her own. She, of course, was not able to get back into school, but did eventually obtain a GED. She put a roof over their heads, albeit very modest, and the younger kids were put into the educational system. In the United States, they had a chance to survive and stay together as a family. They just needed to survive. That year, a friend of mine, who each year looks for a needy family at Christmas time to express generosity and bestow gifts upon, was able to shower the family with a multitude of presents, including a television, clothing, gift cards, toys. You should have seen their faces. They had never in their wildest dreams imagined a Christmas like that. That was 13 years ago. I still keep in touch with them, and I hold the boys and their whole family very close to my heart. They are truly amazing people, and even to this day they celebrate their mother's life on her birthday. It's a time for them all to reminisce with the memories they have of their mother. It's difficult for Francisco, the youngest, during that time because he has no memories of her. He cries from the pain he still carries for someone he never had the chance to really know. He tries to cope with the loss and absence of his mother, along with his lack of memories, but says with conviction that he knows her death allowed them all to begin a better life for themselves by being here in the United States. I find it a privilege to have been their teacher, and I feel blessed that they still want me in their lives today. And the little boys, not so little anymore, are straight-A students. Francisco is now in high school, and Roberto just graduated and is enrolled in community college. Both still live with Mercedes and her husband. The two others have families of their own, and they're all striving for their best. They're contributing to society and patiently awaiting citizenship. I send Roberto a congratulation card for his graduation, and in it I wrote that I was so proud of him and his family for what they accomplished so far, and that I can't wait to see what he does with his life from here. They are a shining example of the strength of the human spirit. But with lack of that knowledge that came from that story and those kids, which again is not an uncommon story, with lack of compassion or empathy or even sympathy comes stereotypes, and to me that's dangerous. Speak your truth, but also listen to the truths of others. Stories matter. They can break the dignity of a people, but they can also repair that dignity. I watched a great TED Talk by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She's a Nigerian novelist. She says, stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and humanize. I think we must educate ourselves, educate the public, and see that everyone's story matters. It's about tolerance. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization defines tolerance as tolerance is respect, acceptance, and appreciation of the rich diversity of our world's cultures, our forms of expression, and ways of being human. Tolerance is harmony in difference. By doing that, we regain our collective resilience and our connectedness that reminds me of one of my favorite poems by Maya Angelou called Human Family. And I'll end with reading part of it. I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. Please check out my website and learn more about what I have to say and about me, about my book, and about my blogs at my website that's listed below. Please share and please like. Thank you.